couple of years back, I ran into a game series known as Persona, and some of the games I've heard of were Persona 5 and Persona 4 Golden. Since I was pretty dumb, edgy, and didn't know any better, I thought that those games were lame and nothing but anime weeb trash. A couple of years have passed, and I'm not much of a fucking edgy dank board anymore. I found out that Persona 4 Golden released on PC. I was kinda curious if I should play this game to see if it was any good. I've heard a lot about the Persona series and this game specifically. Critics giving Persona 4 a 9 out of 10, 4.5 stars, and just considering the game a classic and a must-play. Some of my friends who are fans of the Persona games recommended that I should buy Persona 4 on PC. After hearing all this talk about the Persona series and the SMT series, I decided to start off by playing Persona 4 Golden. So I bought the game, and when I started playing the game, I was instantly sucked in. I wanted to keep playing more of this game. Think of it as binge watching a television series. You're way too interested into the story and the characters within that you can't stop watching. That's kinda how I felt when playing this game. There's so much stuff in this game that I want to talk about in this video, like the music, the gameplay, the plot, the character developments, and more. After finishing this game, I decided to make this video and give my personal thoughts on Persona 4, so sit back, relax, and let's talk about the phenomenal game that is Persona 4. Gameplay. First, I want to talk a little bit about the gameplay mechanics of Persona 4. I won't be talking much about it in this video, mainly because I think the story, the music, the character development, etc. are a little more worth the time talking about. Anyways, Persona 4's gameplay can be a little bit difficult and harsh at times, but most of the time it's not bad. It can be quite difficult at times when you're facing boss shadows and other stronger enemies. But if you grind through different dungeons and level up stats and personas, then I think you should be good. However, I was too fucking dumb to level up anything, and I just went in the game expecting it to be an easy ride through. But dear god, it was not. So if you are hopping on this game and have never really played a JRPG game before, then do what I did, and stick with very easy mode. The gameplay I found had a very action-packed, active, and fast-paced combat system, which was very nice because I have played a lot of games that had combat system, and a lot of them were kinda slow at times and just not exciting at all. However, it does get a little bit repetitive and boring at times, mainly the turn-based combat in Persona 4. But other than that, I found that it was pretty smooth. Waddling around different dungeons in the game were really exciting. I forgot to mention that in each dungeon and battle, you start off with having HP, which is your health, and your SP. You pretty much use SB to activate your most powerful abilities, such as perform different attacks on shadows using your personas, and offensive abilities that carry several attributes, such as physical, fire, ice, wind, electricity, light, dark, and almighty. But man, that's a handful. However, if you are halfway through your battle and you are running low on SP, it is highly recommended that you use items that can refill your SP. SP I found was very important to use in battles, especially in boss battles, because if you run out of SP, then you're pretty much fucked. All you can do at this point is either control other characters in your party who have a little bit of SP, or you can just say YOLO and do basic attacks. There's also this thing called social links, which is pretty much bonds and friendships with other characters in the game. Pretty much when you talk to different characters and friends in the game, it increases the social link's rank, which can grant bonuses when creating new and more powerful personas in the Velvet Room. I personally think social links are sometimes worth the time when you need to level up and make new personas, but most of the time I just think it's a waste of time. I'll talk more about social links later on in this video. But yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on the gameplay of Persona 4. It's very fast-paced and can be very exciting at times, but if you're pretty much doing the same tactics in each battle, then it can feel a little bit repetitive and can get boring after a while. Overall, it's alright. It has some pros here and there, has some cons here and there. It's alright. Now that I'm done giving my thoughts on the gameplay of Persona 4, let's talk about the story and the characters in the game. Story and the characters. In Persona 4, you start the game off by playing as the protagonist. He doesn't really have a name in this game, but does in fact have one in the anime, and goes by the name of Yu Narukami. Get it? You, as in you, the player playing the game, is you. You know what? Let's give him a name. Why don't we? Let's name him Silly Man, Funny Man. Yeah, Silly Man, Funny Man. That's a good name. Yeah. Anyways, at the beginning, he takes a train down to a fictional Japanese town called Inaba, where he will be visiting and living with his uncle for the next year as his parents are working aboard. When you arrive, you go to school for the first time, meet up with some new characters and become friends with them, explore and learn a little bit more about Inaba. People mention to you that Inaba is a normal, calm, and innocent town where nothing bad happens and nothing goes wrong. But then, as you live a normal high school student life, weird incidents start to happen, such as a death of a TV announcer whose body was found hanging from an antenna pole, as well as another mysterious death that happens a few days later, but this time, the body is hanging from a telephone pole. All these murders that have happened so far have had people in Inaba talking and have had people really concerned. Silly Man Funny Man and his friends heard rumors spreading around their school of this so-called midnight channel. Soon after, they find out that they can hop into TVs where they meet none other than Teddy, the man, the myth, the legend Teddy, who is a character that lives in the TV world. Teddy helps the gang travel freely between the TV world and the real world. Later on, the characters awaken their persona abilities, realizing that the murders stem from attacks by shadows, being native to the TV world created from repressed emotions, and with their new personas, they are able to rescue victims. Pretty much most of the main characters such as Yukiko, Kanji, Rise, and Naoto were all once shoved into the TV and tossed into the shadow world, where Silly Man, Funny Man, and the gang all tried to save them. The main characters in the game all go through their own shadows, except you, of course, because you are a badass Chad. Characters such as Yosuke, Chie, Yukiko, Kanji, Rise, Naoto, and Teddy all encounter their own shadows, which are parts of someone that they reject and hate, and that they hide it from anyone else so that they don't have to see their true self. After going through their shadows, the characters each get their own persona, which are pretty much spirits that they can summon at any time during battles. What's interesting about the characters in the game is that they all have to cope with their own personal struggles, and how these struggles are the crux for pretty much all the dungeons you explore, and all these dungeons are very interesting and relate to each different character. These characters have to deal with family pressures, superiority complexes, gender stereotypes, and many more. All these characters in your friend group and your investigation team all have to accept their parts of themselves that they hate. This game is really good at showing different character flaws, and it really makes the characters more realistic and more outgoing. The premise of Persona 4 is to face your true self, and this game does just that. Speaking of the investigation team, Yosuke, Chie, Yukiko, Kanji, Rise, Naoto, Teddy, and Silly Man Funny Man are all part of this team, and with these mysterious murders going around town, they come up with the conclusion that they are all linked to the Midnight Channel and how the culprit shoves people into TVs to kill them. Over time, they all work together to save anyone who is a victim, and to get more clues as to who the mastermind of all this is, while they also try to focus on their education and their own personal lives. This is where my biggest complaint of the game is, and that is the social links. Social links are great for leveling up and upgrading personas and creating stronger ones, and it's also great to know more about the characters and their story. But after maxing out a character's social link, there's nothing else you could do for that character anymore. For example, I maxed out Yukiko's social link and was in a relationship with her. And every time I tried to hang out with her and talk to her after school, she would always say, "Can I go to your room?" or "Let's go to the hot springs," depending on the location I'm at. Nothing new happens when you max out a character's social link, which leaves you with less stuff to do in the game. I'm not saying that social links are bad or nothing. I personally think some of the social links have a really good backstory to the characters. My personal favorite social link is the social link with Yumi Ozawa. In this social link, Yumi is chosen to play as the lead female character in the school play, as well as you being the main hero. Yumi then becomes more determined in her role and more devoted towards the play. Despite her enthusiasm, Yumi slowly slips from the club meetings and eventually reveals that she lives only with her mother alone. Her father, who divorced with her mother for another woman, suddenly came back ill-ridden. Her father exclaims that he wanted to see Yumi and her mother one last time before his illness overtakes him, but Yumi instead angrily lashes out at her mother for forgiving her father so easily. Yumi eventually plans to give up her role as the lead female character of the play, as her mother is currently facing hardships working alone to support herself, Yumi, and her father. However, as she visits her father, Yumi's feelings become conflicted. She cannot forgive her father for being disloyal, but at the same time, Yumi faces the kind father of hers that once was, and confused about her subconscious, slowly begins to re-accept her father. Persona 4 does a very good job at character development, and Yumi is a great example of how characters in this game change over time. At the start, she was outgoing and energetic when she was being the main female character in the play, and once she found out her mother was taking care of Yumi's father, her character went downhill, showing her anger and emotional side of her, and she even dropped down from her role in the play because of it. We start to know a lot more about Yumi when Silly Man Funny Man visits the hospital where Yumi's father is at, and unfortunately Yumi's father passes away during this time. With his last breath, Yumi's father told her that her mother and him took a long time to name her, and that eventually settled as Yumi. Her father explains that Yumi is derived from bear fruit, and Yumi was her parents' fruit, their pride and hope. Eventually, upon her father's death, Yumi's feelings become even more conflicted, and exclaims that even though she hated him, she did not have a chance to thank her father for her birth. This social link is very interesting and kind of overwhelming in a way. After Yumi's father's death, she started to understand her true feelings for her father now. Yumi finally understands why she was so devoted to acting before her father's return, but became uninterested after her father's death. In reality, she only enjoys acting because she seeks it as her only way to hide her sorrow and true feelings, and realized that her interest in acting was the only way of escape. A lot of these social links in Persona 4 have a lot going on with them, and it's very interesting to see the backstories of these characters. Like I mentioned before, Persona 4 is really good at showing different character flaws, and it really makes the characters more realistic and more outgoing. And that's why I consider social links to be a good thing most of the time, because it can tell backstories of different characters in the game that you start social links with, as well as to know more about the true feelings of the characters. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get back into the story. Before I continue, there will be major spoilers from this point on, so if you don't want to hear what happens next, skip to this time. Anyways, let's continue. So time goes by as the investigation team battle through dungeons, find clues, save people, etc. Your uncle, Ryotaro Dojima, who works as a detective on the Inaba police force, mistakenly accuses the protagonist of being involved in the murders. During Silly Man's interrogation, his younger cousin Nanako is kidnapped, leading Ryotaro to engage in a vehicle pursuit with the culprit. The chase ends when they both crash, and the kidnapper escapes with Nanako through a television set in his truck, and the gravely injured Ryotaro entrusts Silly Man and the gang to go rescue Nanako. So the team waddles their way into the television in hopes to find the culprit. They find the culprit, and they defeat him in the good old-fashioned battle, and the culprit was none other than Taro Namatame! Or was it? Once you capture him, Namatame and Nanako get sent to the hospital. This part of the game I have mixed reactions with, mainly because this part just feels kind of odd and doesn't really make any sense, depending on the choices you make. Once Dojima, Nanako, and Namatame are at Inaba Hospital, the team goes to check up on Nanako every day. Each day, her health gets worse and worse from a mysterious illness, and after a couple of days of visiting the hospital, Nanako passes away, leaving Silly Man, his friends, and his uncle Dojima in distress, in anger and sadness. Your cousin that you spent many days hanging out with through social links, the one you cared about the most in the game, has just died in the hospital right in front of you. Afterwards, the group furiously confronts Namatame. As the protagonist, the player must choose to either throw Namatame into the TV or help the others realize that Namatame is not the killer by pointing out the lack of proper motive. When throwing Namatame into the TV, Nanako just stays dead and just dies and stays dead, you know? And time fast forward to the day you have to leave Inaba, but uh-oh, thick yellow fog is everywhere, and you don't save the day and the culprit is still out there. But if you choose to convince the others that Namatame is not the killer, then Nanako comes back to life without any explanation. This part just felt kind of confusing, because if you choose that option, then what was the point of killing off Nanako from the story? It just kind of felt odd and weird when you find out that she came back to life, without any explanation, without any reasoning. Like, is this game really picking at your emotions? Like, really? Come on, I was crying at that part, really? It just felt like they added in that emotional scene of Nanako dying and everyone crying over it just to add something sad and depressing to the game. But if she just comes back to life and not even a day later, then why bother adding it in? Now, it's just my personal opinion on that part. I wasn't a fan of it. Anyways, you and the team came to the conclusion that Namatame isn't the killer, but it was Dojima's assistant Toru Adachi. He was the killer! I fucking knew it! He was the killer! He shoved people into TVs! Oh, that fucking prick! I hate him! Oh, I can't believe it! Once you find out that Adachi is the killer, you and the team chase him and go after him, but he jumped into one of the TVs that was in the hospital. So Silly Man, Funny Man, and the gang all get ready to battle as they go over to Junez and hop into the TV. When you hop into the TV world, you finally reach up to Adachi, where he explains that his actions were both out of boredom and the belief that humanity is better off believing what it wants. His claims are dismissed by the party as the rantings of a madman. At this point in the game, the team finally defeats Adachi in a battle, as well as this big old RGB LED gaming PC Illuminati eye, Amino Sagiri, that comes up after defeating Adachi. The Eyeball Man agrees to lift up the thick yellow fog that has been covering up Inaba for the past couple weeks, and the investigation team saves the day, defeating the culprit and lifting up the fog from the town. They don't have to worry about any people getting tossed into the TV and any murders anymore. Inaba is now safe and sound thanks to everyone's hard work. Or is it? A couple of months have passed, and you spend your last precious moments you have with your friends in your high school days in Inaba before you have to leave. On the day before you have to leave Inaba, you decide to meet up with your friends one last time at the Junez food court. You then talk about the murder cases, and how there's still some stuff that they don't know yet. Like who the mastermind of the Midnight Channel is, and why this mysterious person wants to cover the world with thick fog and turn everyone into shadows. So you and the gang go around to get more clues and find out who the actual culprit and the actual mastermind is, only to find out that it was this random gas station attendant who is also known as Izanami. What the fuck? So you and the rest of the investigation team hop into the TV one last time to battle Izanami. Once you defeat Izanami, in a very intense, emotional, and difficult battle, the fog in the TV world and the real world is lifted, and the TV world is restored to its original form. After this, it is time that Silly Man, Funny Man leaves Inaba. He says one last goodbye to his friends, his uncle and cousin, and the whole investigation team. The last cutscene really fits well with the ending of the story and wraps up the game in a very happy, heartwarming, and emotional ending where you hop on the train and you say goodbye to your friends while they're all chasing after the train with tears in their eyes. The credits roll and the game finally ends. This ending is known to be the true ending in Persona 4. There are other endings in the game, but most of the other endings are just all bad endings to the game, pretty much all of them. This ending specifically I found was really well written, and it was very heartwarming and emotional, and overall was a great ending to wrap up the game. This game isn't just about fighting shadows and searching around dungeons. It was about friendship, saving people you care about, and overcoming and accepting your true self. This is what the game does best. The storytelling, the character development, the way the characters are written really makes them all likable, makes them more real, and some of the times makes you have connections with them. And at the ending, knowing that you, Silly Man, Funny Man, have to leave Inaba and leave your friends and the people you have connections with behind is just really emotional, because the protagonist had such good memories with them throughout the game. I personally enjoy the characters and the story a lot more than fighting shadows. Just knowing that there's a murderer on the loose in Inaba, shoving people into TVs and trying to find clues as to who the culprit is with your friends is just very exciting to me. It's a murder mystery after all. It's like Scooby-Doo, but except more mature. If I have to pick a favorite character in the game, it would have to be Teddy. A lot of people in the Persona 4 community really don't like him very much, with people saying that he's annoying, unlikable, and his story is just bland and boring. Now, people are entitled to their own opinion, but personally, I find his character very interesting. Teddy serves as the guide for the investigation team. He's energetic, goofy, and always seems happy and in a good mood. But during the part where he has to encounter his own shadow, he realizes that it represents himself hiding the truth about his identity. That is, the fact that he is a lost, lonely shadow. He learned to speak human language and became friendly with humans, taking his bear-like form so that people would like him upon meeting him. Later on, Teddy eventually grows as a human body so that he can be with other humans, but in the meantime, he still questions his existence. Later on in the story, when Nanako dies in the hospital, it leaves Teddy devastated and consumed by his own powerlessness of being unable to keep his promise to Nanako, that he feels he lost his reason to live in Inaba. Like I mentioned before, characters change a lot throughout the time, emotionally and physically, and overall makes the characters more brighter and more real. The game's story and music and the characters are undoubtedly one of my favorite things about Persona 4, and all of that is just perfect and well written, and it's just really, really good. Music. The soundtrack and the music of Persona 4 is amazing. It's outstanding. The music is very subtle and nuanced in a way. The songs have different tones and styles to it depending on where you are in the game, which makes the soundtrack very unique. For example, when you are in dungeons and you are battling different shadows, the music is more heavy rock and a little bit more aggressive and fast-paced compared to music you would hear when you're walking downtown in Inaba. Some songs such as Time to Make History and Reach Out to the Truth play most of the time when you are battling shadows. These songs fit well for the background music during battles because battles in the game are very fast-paced and aggressive. Same goes as the songs, making the battles more hyped and more exciting and enjoyable. Other than that, most of the songs in the game are a mix of jazz, electronic, and pop, which gives the game more of a feel-good and brighter mood to it. Songs such as Signs of Love and Heartbeat Heartbreak both play whenever you are exploring Inaba and being an epic gamer. Both of these songs are a mixture of different musical genres, and both these songs give off a really good vibe and really fits well with the location that the game takes place in, and as well as the story. A lot of the songs in Persona 4 have meanings that relate to the game's story. One song in particular is Snowflakes, which plays during the winter time and the months of January and February. This is during the part of the game where you have only a couple of months left in Inaba and are trying to build memories and overall just spending time hanging out with the people you care about before you have to leave. Not only does this song give off a winter vibe, it also tells a lot about the protagonist's final days in Inaba in the lyrics. In the lyrics, it says, "A cold wind blows away the laughter from this treasured place, but in our memories it stays," can represent Silly Man Funny Man's time in Inaba, and considering Inaba a treasured place, full of memories and laughter. Other parts in the song such as, "This is where we saw it through, thinking then, this friendship, it was built to last," represents the battles and the murder cases that you and the rest of the investigation team went through. And with getting together as a team, the protagonist built friendships with everyone. A lot of the song's lyrics relate to the game and its story, which makes the soundtrack really unique and likable. I honestly love the soundtrack in this game, and I don't really think there's anything bad I can say about it, because pretty much all the songs are really good and enjoyable. Persona 4 is an amazing game with so much to do. There is a lot that goes on in the story, with the mysterious murders that take place, mysterious midnight channel, and weird and concerning thick fog that covers Inaba. I can't stress this enough of how well written the story and the characters are. It is very detailed and makes the whole game feel more alive. Different battles, adventures, and dungeons that you encounter throughout the game is what makes the game unique, as well as the amazing soundtrack that plays throughout. If you haven't played Persona 4 yet, I strongly recommend you all to give it a try. If you love games with a great story and fantastic characters, as well as an amazing soundtrack and great music, then play Persona 4. When it comes to Persona 4, it will always be one of those games that I will always return to and possibly play again. With that being said, Persona 4 is a fantastic game, and thank you all for watching this video. I worked pretty hard on this video, so it would really mean a lot if you all liked this video and share this video to any one of your friends who haven't played Persona 4 yet. Comment down below your thoughts on Persona 4 and subscribe to this channel if you are new. Oh, and before this video ends, I also want to shout out a new YouTube channel that I will be part of called Cannabozos, where me and my friends make gaming videos. Check out some of the videos on there and feel free to subscribe. Thanks again for watching everyone, and I will see you all in the next video. See ya.